saying that this would happen tomorrow. So, so far we have been hearing that they are taking part in meetings down in D.C. Meanwhile, even before this back and forth happened, the U.S.-Canada Relations Council was meeting today, this morning, just looking at the impact this would have, these tariffs would have. If you look on your screen here, $3.6 billion in trade happened between the two countries daily. That's every 24 hours. And every year, the number obviously increases by a lot. 1.3 trillion, that's trillion with a T, in annual two-way trade. It would also affect a lot of American jobs, not just Canadian, but we're looking at 1.4 million American jobs that are supported by exports to Canada. And Canada and Trudeau vow to punch back if this does happen. Have a listen to some of the stern words by Trudeau earlier this morning.
We won't back down. That if tariffs are implemented against Canada, we will respond. We won't relent until tariffs are removed, and of course, everything is on the table. I won't sugarcoat it. Our nation could be facing difficult times in the coming days and weeks. I know Canadians might be anxious and worried, but I want them to know the federal government, and indeed all orders of government, have their backs. That was the topic of conversation 2 days ago when I had a First Minister's meeting with all premiers.
And we are expecting, hopefully, Trump to talk later this afternoon. We're still waiting on word from that, just checking on the latest. But hopefully we'll hear from Trump as he signs more executive orders. He did speak to media last time he did do that. So still waiting on that, Akshay, for confirmation whether he'll speak to media. And obviously the big question he'll be asked is it tomorrow we'll see those tariffs or down the road on March 1st?
Yeah, we're keeping an eye in Washington for now. But Camille, thank you for this update.
Mm-hmm.
With Trump's tariffs confirmed, Canadian leaders are bracing for impact.
President Trump is trying to divide us. He'll say and do anything to get his way, no matter the cost. He doesn't know what we know. Canada is not for sale.
And NDP MP Charlie Angus is calling on Canadians to sign a pledge with the goal to unite Canadians.
Once we have started to build this movement, then now we have a network to start coming together with ideas. We're getting lots of creative ideas. I don't think it would be advisable for us now to sort of say the next step and what we're going to do. We're building the pledge, we're building the base of support, and we want to use it in a way that keeps pressure on our elected officials and our business leaders not to sell us down the river to the likes of Donald Trump.
And earlier in the show, I spoke with the head of Canadian manufacturers and exporters, calling on the federal and provincial governments to take swift and decisive action to respond to Trump's tariffs. Dennis Darby saying that manufacturers and their workers are one of the most trade exports and vulnerable sector of the economy. He says tariffs would have a devastating impact.
Imposing these tariffs on Canada will have an immediate inflationary effect, of course, on consumers both in the U.S. and Canada. Because most of what Canada sells are intermediate goods, and remember, it's about over $700 billion a year. When you think about it, almost 2/3 of everything we sell to the U.S. are manufactured goods. When you add that to oil and gas, that's the majority of what we sell. So if all of that is tariff, that will affect American consumers because the parts that go into their cars, the ingredients that go into their food products will all cost more.
Now, CME is calling for the elimination of inter-provincial trade barriers to address structural weaknesses in the Canadian economy. To other news we are tracking, businessman and former MP Frank Baylis has officially launched his Liberal leadership campaign. He says his background as a business executive makes him well-suited to negotiate with Donald Trump over tariffs.
When you're dealing with this kind of a negotiator, this kind of a bully, you fight pound for pound. You get hit, you hit back. You get hit twice, you hit back twice.
Baylis pitched what he called his prosperity agenda. He talked about the cost of living, building a better healthcare system, and modernizing government. He says fiscal responsibility and government efficiency would be his priorities as Liberal leader. Now, while Baylis is in, another candidate has dropped out. Jaime Batiste, the only Indigenous candidate, announced yesterday he was withdrawing and throwing his support behind Mark Carney. The Nova Scotia MP says he feels it's the best way to advance his priorities, including reconciliation. And as Liberal leadership race heats up, the federal Conservatives say the party is smashing fundraising records. The party raised almost $42 million in 2024, topping a record set in 2023.